The year was 2347, and humanity had spread across 12 star systems. They built colonies on distant worlds, created new homes among the stars, and dreamed of a future where they would stand as equals with the great species of the galaxy. On a beautiful green world called Elysium 7, there was a human colony named New Busan. 60,000 people lived there. They had farms and factories, hospitals, and schools. The largest school was called Hanul Academy, and it held 4,200 children from across the colony. Commander Do-hun Park had once been a great soldier. He had fought in the border conflicts and earned many medals. But those days were behind him now. He had retired to Elysium 7 to live a quiet life with his family. His daughter Yuna was 8 years old. She had her mother's smile and her father's stubborn spirit. Every morning, Do-hun would walk her to school and watch her run through the gates, her small backpack bouncing on her shoulders. Every evening, she would tell him about her day, about her friends, about the things she learned. His wife Hana taught music at Hanul Academy. She had a gentle voice and patient hands that could make any instrument sing. The children loved her. They called her Teacher Hana, and they would crowd around her during breaks just to hear her play. Life was simple. Life was good. Do-hun often thought he did not deserve such happiness, but there was a shadow over humanity that most people did not see. The galaxy was ruled by 5 powerful species. The Vorim were tall and proud, with skin like blue stone. The Keth were warriors, with 4 arms and black eyes. The Paloon were thin and silent, always watching and recording. The Oshan were connected through a great mental network, sharing thoughts across the stars. The Dreth controlled the space lanes, deciding who could travel and who could not. These 5 species had created something called the Galactic Accord. It was a treaty of peace and cooperation. Humanity had signed this treaty 200 years ago, hoping to join the galactic community as friends. But the 5 species did not see humans as friends. They saw them as children, weak, emotional, unimportant. Every year, humanity applied for full membership in the Galactic Council. Every year, they were rejected. When the 19th rejection came, Do-hun heard about it on the news. He sat in his living room and felt the old frustration rise in his chest. Humanity had done everything right. They had followed every rule. They had been patient and peaceful, and still, they were turned away. That night, Yuna came to him with a question. "Father," she said, climbing onto his lap, "why don't the aliens like us?" Do-hun looked at her innocent face and felt his heart break a little. How could he explain the unfairness of the galaxy to an 8-year-old girl? "They don't dislike us," he said softly, stroking her hair. "They just don't understand us yet." Yuna thought about this for a moment. Then she smiled. "Maybe when I grow up, I can help them understand." Do-hun held her close. "Maybe you will," he whispered. "Maybe you will." But far away, in the dark halls of alien palaces, a very different conversation was happening. The leaders of the 5 species met in secret. They gathered on a hidden station between the stars, where no human eyes could see them. The Vorim ambassador spoke first. "Humanity grows too fast. Their population doubles every century. Their technology improves every decade. If we do not act, they will become a threat." The Keth general nodded. "They are weak now, but they will not stay weak. I have seen their soldiers train. They fight with a fire I have not seen in other species." The Paloon observer raised a thin hand. "Our records show that human civilizations have survived great disasters. War, disease, famine. They always rebuild. They always grow stronger." The Oshan hive mind spoke through a single voice. "We have calculated the probabilities. Within 300 years, humanity will surpass all of us in power. This cannot be allowed." The Dreth commander was the last to speak. "Then we are agreed. We must reduce their numbers, slow their growth, break their spirit. But how? Asked the Vorum. If we attack their military, they will fight back. If we attack their economy, they will rebuild. What target will truly break them? There was silence in the chamber. Then the Keth general smiled, a cold and terrible smile. Their children, he said. Humans love their children more than anything, more than their own lives. If we take their children, we take their future. We take their hope. They will crumble. The others considered this. One by one, they nodded. Then it is decided, said the Vorum ambassador. We will strike their schools, their orphanages, their hospitals for the young. We will show them that they have no future in this galaxy. The Paloon observer tilted its head. Should we not worry about their response? The Keth general laughed. What response? They are emotional creatures. They will weep and mourn. They will be too broken to fight. And by the time they recover, we will have reduced their numbers enough to control them forever. Besides, added the Dreth commander, they are members of the Accord. They are bound by treaty, not to attack us. They will file complaints. They will make speeches. But they will not act. The secret order was sent out that night. It traveled through encrypted channels to military commanders across the galaxy. The message was simple. Target: human children. Method: swift and total elimination. Goal: break the human spirit forever. On Elysium 7, Do-Hoon Park slept peacefully beside his wife. In her small bedroom, why, Yuna dreamed of growing up and making friends with aliens who would finally understand humanity. None of them knew that the galaxy had already decided their fate. None of them knew that in 3 days, everything they loved would burn. And none of them knew that the galaxy had just made the greatest mistake in its long and ancient history. The attack came at dawn, when the sky was pink and gold, and the birds of Elysium 7 were just beginning to sing. Do-Hoon Park was awake early that morning. He stood on his small balcony with a cup of coffee in his hand, watching the sun rise over the distant mountains. Hana was still sleeping. Yuna would need to wake up soon for school. It was going to be a beautiful day. Then the sky turned dark. Do-Hoon looked up and felt his blood freeze. Massive ships were appearing in the sky above New Busan. Not human ships. Vorum warships. Dozens of them, blocking out the morning sun. For a moment, he could not move. His soldier's mind was screaming at him that this was wrong, that the Vorum were allies, that the Galactic Accord protected them. Then the first missiles launched. They did not hit the military base on the edge of the city. They did not hit the power stations or the factories. They flew in a perfect line toward the center of the colony, toward Hanul Academy. Do-Hoon dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the ground, but he did not hear it. He was already running into the house, screaming for Hana to wake up, screaming that they had to go. They had to get to the school, but the school was 3 kilometers away, and the missiles were already falling. He ran through the streets of New Busan. Around him, people were screaming and crying, looking up at the sky in terror. Keth soldiers were landing in dropships, their 4 arms carrying weapons that glowed with deadly energy. They were not shooting at the adults. They were marching toward the schools. Do-Hoon ran faster than he had ever run in his life. His lungs burned. His legs ached. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Yuna was at that school. Hana was at that school. He could see the academy now, or what was left of it. The beautiful building where his daughter learned to read, where his wife taught children to sing, was a burning ruin. Smoke poured into the sky. Flames ate through the walls. And everywhere, there was silence. The terrible silence of a place where 4,200 voices had been speaking just minutes ago. Do-Hoon fell to his knees at the edge of the destruction. Other parents were arriving now, their faces twisted with horror and grief. Some were digging through the rubble with their bare hands. Some were just standing and staring, unable to believe what they were seeing. He searched for hours. His hands bled. His voice went raw from calling Yuna's name. Soldiers tried to pull him away, told him it was not safe, but he threw them off and kept searching. He found Hana's body, near what had once been the music room. She was curled around 3 small children, her arms wrapped tight around them. Even in death, she had tried to protect them. Even in death, she had been a teacher. None of them had survived. Do-hun held his wife's body and screamed. It was not a human sound. It was the sound of something breaking deep inside him. Something that would never be whole again. He never found Yuna. There was nothing left to find. Across the 12 human colonies, the same horror was unfolding. The attack had been perfectly planned, perfectly timed. On every world, at the exact same moment, the 5 species had struck. Schools in New Seoul, orphanages in Armstrong City, the Children's Hospital on Titan Station, kindergartens on Mars, nurseries on the colony ships. Everywhere, the targets were the same. Children. Only children. By the time the sun set on that terrible day, 847,000 human children were dead. The youngest was 3 months old. The oldest was 16. The galaxy called it many things. The Vorim called it necessary population control. The Keth called it a strategic reduction. The Palun simply recorded it without comment. But humanity called it by its true name, the Morning of Ashes. The 5 species watched and waited for humanity's response. They expected crying. They expected begging. They expected humans to fall apart, to turn on each other, to collapse into chaos and grief. They did not understand humans at all. In the days after the attack, something strange happened. The crying stopped. The screaming stopped. A silence fell over human space that was deeper and more frightening than any noise. Ambassador Vorek of the Vorim addressed the Galactic Council 3 days after the attack. He stood tall and proud, his blue stone face showing no regret. The human problem has been addressed, he announced. Their population growth has been corrected. We expect they will now accept their proper place in the galaxy. We expect they will be grateful that we showed such mercy. He smiled as he said this. The other species nodded in agreement. The Keth general, who had proposed the plan, was given a medal for his strategic thinking. Far away, on the burned ruins of Elysium 7, Commander Do-hun Park sat alone in the ashes of Hanul Academy. He had not eaten in 3 days. He had not slept. He had simply sat there, staring at the place where his daughter had died. But he was not broken. Something inside him had changed. Yes, the soft parts of him, the gentle parts, the parts that had learned to love peace and quiet those parts, were gone. What remained was something older, something harder, something that humanity had carried in its blood since the first human had picked up a rock to protect their child from a predator. What remained was rage, and all across human space, in the hearts of every parent who had lost a child, every brother who had lost a sister, every grandmother who had lost a grandchild. That same rage was building. The galaxy had wanted to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had united it. They had given humanity something it had never had before. A single, shared purpose. A single, burning goal. And that goal was simple: revenge. For 30 days after the Morning of Ashes, humanity said nothing. No angry messages. No demands for justice. No diplomatic protests. No threats of war. Just silence. At first, the 5 species were pleased. This was exactly what they had expected. The humans were mourning. The humans were broken. Soon they would accept their place as the lowest members of the galaxy, and order would be restored. But as the days passed, the silence began to feel strange. The Vorim sent messages to human colonies asking about trade. There was no reply. The Keth demanded access to human ports. There was no reply. The Ocean tried to connect to human communication networks. They found only static. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared. Ambassador Vorek grew impatient. On the 20th day of silence, he stood before the Galactic Council and spoke with contempt in his voice. "The humans hide in their corners like wounded animals," he said. "They weep and moan. They are too weak to even complain about what we did to them. This proves we were right. They are not worthy of standing among the great species." The council laughed. The Keth general made jokes about human tears. The Paloon recorded everything with cold, careful eyes. None of them understood what was really happening. Behind the silence, humanity was not weeping. Humanity was working. Admiral Teho Shin had been commanding a patrol fleet when the attacks happened. He was a serious man, with gray hair and calm eyes. He had served humanity for 40 years and had never lost a battle. But when he heard about the Morning of Ashes, he felt something he had never felt before. Cold, patient fury. He returned to Earth and called a meeting of every military commander in human space. They gathered in an underground bunker, far from any satellite or spy. 200 admirals and generals, representing every colony, every fleet, every army. "We have two choices," Teho said, his voice steady. "We can go to the Galactic Council. We can file complaints. We can ask for justice." He paused. "Or we can make them pay." Not a single voice spoke for the first option. Within hours, every factional dispute in human space was ended. Political parties that had argued for decades suddenly agreed on everything. Rival colonies that had competed for resources now shared everything freely. Every factory, every shipyard, every laboratory was turned toward a single goal: preparing for war. On the moon called Luna, there was a secret laboratory run by Dr. Somi Kang. She was a small woman with messy hair and tired eyes, but she had the sharpest mind in human science. For years, she had been working on theoretical physics, ideas that most people thought were impossible. Now she made those ideas real. She emerged from her laboratory on the 25th day with blueprints for something new, something terrible. She called them temporal displacement weapons. They could erase targets from existence itself, removing them from the flow of time. Nothing could defend against them. Nothing could survive them. "How fast can we build these?" Admiral Teho asked. "If every factory in human space works together," Somi replied, "we can arm the entire fleet in 4 weeks. Do it." On Mars, General Junho Lee was building an army. He put out a call for volunteers, expecting maybe a few thousand responses. He received 50 million. Every veteran who had ever served came out of retirement. Young men and women who had never held a weapon demanded to be trained. Scientists and doctors and teachers put down their tools and picked up guns. But the most frightening volunteers were the parents. They came from every colony, every station, every ship. Mothers and fathers who had lost their children. Their eyes were empty and their hearts were cold. They did not care if they lived or died. They only wanted one thing: to make the enemy feel what they had felt. General Junho formed them into a special unit. He called it the Ghost Division. Commander Do-hoon Park was chosen to lead them. Do-hoon had not spoken much since finding his wife's body. He had not smiled. He had not cried. He had simply trained, hour after hour, day after day, preparing himself for what was coming. When Junho offered him the command, Do-hoon asked only one question: "Will I be able to look into their eyes when they die?" "Yes," Junho promised. "Then I accept." On the 30th day, everything was ready. The Reckoning Fleet was the largest military force humanity had ever created. 3,000 warships, each one armed with weapons that the galaxy had never seen. 50 million soldiers, each one willing to fight to the last breath. And leading them all, Admiral Teho Shin stood on the bridge of his flagship and prepared to break humanity's silence. The message was simple. It was broadcast on every frequency, in every language, to every corner of the galaxy. "You took our children. Now, We take everything. The 5 species received the message at the same time. For a moment, they did not believe it. Then, the laughter began. The weak little humans were threatening them. The emotional creatures who had hidden for 30 days were going to fight the most powerful species in the galaxy? It was a joke. It had to be a joke. But deep in the Vorim command center, one old admiral felt a cold chill run down his spine. He had studied humans. He had read their history. He knew what they were capable of when they were truly angry. "We should prepare our defenses," he said quietly. The other Vorim laughed at him. They would not be laughing for long. The Vorim homeworld had never been attacked. For 10,000 years, their defense systems had protected them from all threats. Their shields could stop any weapon. Their sensors could detect any approach. Their fleet was the largest in the galaxy. They believed they were safe. On the first day of human revenge, the Reckoning Fleet appeared in Vorim space. Admiral Teho Shin stood on his bridge, watching the enemy planet grow larger on his screens. The Vorim were ready. 2,000 warships moved to block the humans. Their commanders laughed at the size of the human fleet. Yes, there were many ships, but they were small. Human technology was primitive. This would be easy. "Fire," ordered the Vorim admiral. Thousands of weapons shot toward the human fleet. Energy beams and missiles and plasma bombs. Enough firepower to destroy a moon. None of it hit. The human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible. They twisted and spun through the attacks like water flowing around stones. And then they fired back. The Vorim had never seen temporal displacement weapons before. They did not understand what was happening when their ships began to simply vanish. Not exploding. Not breaking apart. Just gone. Erased from existence as if they had never been built. In 3 hours, the Vorim fleet was destroyed. Admiral Teho landed his forces on the Vorim homeworld. Resistance was heavy at first. The Vorim were proud warriors, and they fought hard. But the humans fought harder. They fought with a fury that shocked even veteran Vorim soldiers. Human troops charged into enemy fire without hesitation. Human pilots flew suicide. Runs into enemy positions. Human soldiers who lost their weapons kept fighting with knives, with rocks, with their bare hands. And always, they were silent. No battle cries. No screams of rage. Just cold, efficient killing. Ambassador Vorik was captured trying to flee the capital. He was brought before Admiral Teho in chains, his proud face now twisted with fear. "You cannot do this," Vorik stammered. "We are members of the Galactic Accord. You are bound by treaty to show mercy." Admiral Teho looked at him with empty eyes. "You killed 847,000 children," he said. "You murdered them in their schools. You burned them in their beds. And now you speak to me of treaties?" Vorik tried to speak, but no words came out. "Surrender is for warriors," Teho continued. The Vorim capital was destroyed that day. Not a building was left standing. And on every screen across the planet, a single message played on loop. "This is the price of touching human children." The Keth were next. They had led the ground assault on Hanol Academy. Their soldiers had walked through the burning ruins, making sure no child survived. They had laughed while doing it. Commander Do-Hoon Park led the Ghost Division against them. The Ghost Division was made entirely of parents who had lost their children. They did not wear normal uniforms. They wore black, with white masks that showed no emotion. They did not speak during battle. They moved like shadows, appearing and disappearing without warning. The Keth were proud of their strength. They had 4 arms and thick armor and centuries of warrior tradition. None of it mattered. The Ghost Division fought without fear because they had nothing left to lose. They took wounds that would kill normal soldiers and kept fighting. They walked through fire. They crawled through poison gas. Nothing stopped them. Do-Hoon personally led the assault on the Keth general who had planned the attack on children. He found the general hiding in a bunker deep beneath the surface, surrounded by his best guards. The guards died first. Then Dohun stood before the general, his white mask stained with blood. "My daughter's name was Yuna," Dohun said quietly. "She was 8 years old. She wanted to grow up and help aliens understand humans." The general tried to run. Dohun did not let him. The Oshan fell third. They had jammed human communications during the attack, preventing parents from reaching their children. They had made sure that mothers and fathers could not even say goodbye. Engineer Minji Yu created something special for them. The Oshan were connected through a great neural network. Their minds were linked across space. They shared thoughts and memories and feelings. Minji created a virus that spread through this network. It carried a recording, a simple audio file, the sound of children screaming as they died, the sound of parents crying for their lost little ones. Every Oshan connected to the network heard this sound. They could not stop it. They could not block it. It played in their minds forever, day and night, without end. Within a month, the ocean civilization had collapsed. Many went mad. Others simply shut down their minds to escape the noise. The Dreth had blocked the space lanes during the attack, preventing human ships from rescuing children. They had trapped families on dying stations and laughed at their desperation. Captain Hyun Baek found the Dreth fleet in a region called the Void of Korath. It was supposed to be a perfect defensive position. The Dreth believed they were safe there. Hyun surrounded them. He used the same tactics the Dreth had used against humans. He blocked every escape route. He jammed every communication. Then he closed in. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, not a single Dreth ship remained. The last Dreth admiral sent a message begging for mercy before his ship was erased from time. Hyun did not reply. Finally, there were the Palun. They had not attacked anyone directly. They had simply watched. They had recorded everything and done nothing to help. They were given a choice. Admiral Taeho appeared on every Palun screen with a simple demand. Broadcast their recordings. Show the entire galaxy what the 5 species had done. Show the truth, or face the same fate as the others. The Palun chose to broadcast. The galaxy watched in horror as the truth spread. They saw the secret meetings where the attack was planned. They saw the Keth general laughing about killing children. They saw the missiles hitting schools. Species that had once ignored humanity began to reconsider. Some sent aid. Some offered alliance. Some simply stayed quiet, terrified of what humanity might do next. The war lasted 14 months. When it ended, the 5 great species were broken, and humanity was just beginning. The war ended on a quiet afternoon in Earth's capital city. Representatives from the 5 broken species stood before the United Human Assembly. Their heads bowed in defeat. They had come to surrender. Admiral Taeho Shin stood at the center of the Great Hall, surrounded by the leaders of humanity. His face was tired but calm. 14 months of war had aged him, but his eyes still burned with purpose. The Vorim ambassador was the first to speak. He was not Vorik. Vorik was dead, executed for his crimes against children. This was a younger Vorim, chosen specifically because he had opposed the attack. "We accept all terms," the ambassador said, his voice barely a whisper. "We offer our complete surrender. We ask only for mercy." The hall was silent. Every human in the room remembered the morning of ashes. Every human remembered what these species had done. Admiral Taeho spoke slowly. "Mercy. You ask for mercy." He let the word hang in the air. "Did you show mercy when you bombed our schools? Did you show mercy when you burned our children alive?" The ambassador could not meet his eyes. "We will give you something better than mercy," Taeho continued. "We will give you justice. True justice. Not revenge, not cruelty, but consequences. This is what you denied our children. This is what you will now receive." The terms were harsh but fair. The 5 species were stripped of their military power. Their weapons were destroyed. Their warships were dismantled. They would never again have the ability to harm anyone. Their governments were restructured under human oversight. Leaders who had participated in the attack were tried for their crimes. Those found guilty were executed. Those who had opposed the attack were promoted. The Galactic Accord was dissolved. In its place, humanity created a new system. A system where no species could attack another without facing the consequences. A system where the strong protected the weak instead of destroying them. And most importantly, a system where children of every species were considered sacred, untouchable, protected by the full might of human power. Some species called it tyranny, others called it salvation. But everyone agreed on one thing: the galaxy would never be the same. A ceremony was held on Elysium 7, on the ruins of Haenel Academy. Humanity built a memorial there, a great wall of black stone stretching toward the sky. On this wall were carved 847,000 names, every child who had died in the morning of ashes. At the center of the memorial stood a statue. It showed a woman with gentle features, her arms wrapped around 3 small children. She was shielding them with her body, protecting them, even in death. It was Hana. It was Teacher Hana, who had died trying to save her students. Commander Do-hun Park attended the ceremony. He had refused all medals and promotions. He had refused to become a general or a leader. He wanted only one thing: to return to the place where his family had died. He knelt before the wall and found 2 names carved near the center: Yuna Park, Hana Park. He touched the letters with trembling fingers. The leaders of humanity offered him words of comfort. They called him a hero. They thanked him for his service. Do-hun shook his head. "I am no hero," he said quietly. "Heroes save people. I failed to save my own daughter. I failed to save my own wife. I failed to save my own wife." Admiral Teho placed a hand on his shoulder. "You gave them justice. You made sure no parent would ever suffer as you did." Do-hun looked up at the statue of his wife. "I told her once that the aliens just didn't understand us. That someday they would." He paused. "Now they do." The galaxy learned many lessons from the war. They learned that humanity was not weak or emotional or primitive. They learned that humans could be patient and methodical and terrifying. But the most important lesson was simpler. Never harm human children. Never. An ancient species called the Yith had watched everything from their distant corner of the galaxy. They were older than any civilization still living. They had seen thousands of species rise and fall. After the war ended, they sent a message to Earth. It was short. "We have observed the galaxy for 1 million years. We have watched countless species claim to be powerful. We have watched them all fade to dust. But we have never seen anything like you. You are the first species in 1 million years to truly frighten us. The galaxy is fortunate that you chose justice over extinction." Admiral Teho read this message to the assembly. When he finished, there was no cheering, no celebration, only silence. Because humans understood something the galaxy did not. They had not won because they were stronger, or smarter, or more advanced. They had won because they loved their children more than they feared death. 100 years passed. In a classroom on the Vorum homeworld, a young Vorum student raised her hand. "Teacher," she asked, "why do our people serve the humans?" The teacher, an old Vorum with tired eyes, paused for a long moment before answering. "Because our ancestors made a terrible mistake," she said finally. "They thought humans were weak because they loved their children so much. They thought this love was a flaw, something to be exploited. What happened? They learned that this love was not a weakness. It was their greatest strength. And when we tried to break that love, we broke ourselves instead." The student thought about this. "Will humans always be our masters?" The teacher shook her head. "They are not our masters. They are our guardians. They protect us now. Even after what we did to them, they protect all children. Everywhere. Even ours. But why? After everything we did, why would they protect us?" The teacher smiled sadly. Because that is who they are. They hurt us to teach us a lesson. But they did not destroy us. They could have. They chose not to. Because even after everything, they still believe in mercy and justice. The student nodded slowly, beginning to understand. Across the galaxy, a new law was taught in every school, on every world, in every language. You may challenge humanity. You may fight them. You may even defeat them in small battles. But harm their children. And nothing in the universe will save you from what comes next. And on Elysium 7, where flowers now grew on the ruins of Hanuel Academy, an old man sat by a black stone wall. He visited every day, rain or shine, to sit with his daughter and his wife. Sometimes he talked to them. Sometimes he just sat in silence. But always, before he left, he whispered the same words. The galaxy understands us now, Yuna. Just like you wanted. I wish you could see it. The wind rustled through the flowers, carrying the scent of spring. And somewhere, in whatever place exists beyond the stars, a little girl, with her father's stubborn spirit, smiled. Humanity had shown its true power. Not the power to destroy, though they had that. Not the power to conquer, though they had that too. The power to love so deeply that nothing in the universe could stand against them. This was what it meant to be human. This was what the galaxy had finally learned, and they would never, ever forget.